Hello, welcome to After Pinfall. I'm Tom.
I'm Brad.
And we'll be bringing you the highlights and results of Raw and Smackdown Live for the 8th and 9th of August 2016. So we'll start off with a section of Enzo and Cass talking about what happened between Enzo, Sasha Banks and Jericho last week.
So, last week was fairly decent. This week the promo was very good between all four of the people, obviously including Kevin Owens and that as who came out. They're all really good on the mic, and I'm including Cass in that because he's improved dramatically since making his way onto the main roster. And they started with scathing arguments against each other. Jericho then bonding with Owens by calling him his Canadian brother, which Owens didn't seem that keen on.
No, he looked bored as shit and basically confirmed how the match would go down at SummerSlam. Kevin Owens clearly wants to move back to trying to fight Sami Zayn 24/7, which we're okay with because they're two great wrestlers. Before that segment, Enzo also called out Jericho on his fashion sense with his man scarf and how it's just a crime.
But then we had great Jericho, hip hop wannabe and other excerpts like that.
He's a midget as well. I think
he's a midget. Even though they're the same, very similar height, but we'll let it slide.
So now that we basically know how the match will go down at SummerSlam, we had a match between Chris Jericho and Enzo Amore. It was quite predictable. Of course, Kevin Owens intervened whenever the ref wasn't looking, and Cass has enough of it and just comes in and kicks Jericho in the face.
We've seen the more brutal, aggressive side of Cass recently, obviously with the four villains, and it makes him a much better character.
And so Chris Jericho wins by disqualification, of course. So overall, quite entertaining. A nice start to Raw this week. So moving on, we have Braun Strowman in a crush match against a local competitor, Joel Nelson.
It was a bit of a weird match, really, because it showed the jobber coming out with his own entrance, which was very unusual, and it showed him being scared, trying to run away. Braun Strowman, reverse chokeslam, bosh, game over. And it's a fairly effective way of kind of showing the strength of Braun Strowman if we hadn't have already known who he was before. Yeah,
so basically trying to build his character a bit after leaving the White family. It's obviously for the Cruiserweight division coming to Raw in the future. So next we had Titus O'Neil versus Darren Young in a singles match. Quite an okay match.
It's the same as last week again. It's the complete opposite. So Titus being the one that rolls up Darren, it's Darren rolling up Titus, but I mean, this feud's pre-show SummerSlam written all over it.
Nothing special.
It's nothing special.
So Darren wins that one. So after this we had a Capsaro Sheamus match. Puff Daddy met the New Day.
It's obviously to show the fact that he's the executive producer for the 2K17 video game.
Yeah,
it's coming out in late October, and with him doing the soundtrack. Then he obviously need to advertise the game. He's going to want the TV time because he needs to try and stay relevant.
It's not like we've had enough promos of the Brock Lesnar advert for the game already. She's every ad break of any fighting event, I think, for the UK. So, but it is looking a vast improvement on graphics and overall animation.
It should be good.
Because they recently released the Demon entrance for Finn Balor.
From Dallas, wasn't it?
Yeah.
From Dallas with the chainsaw. So I mean, if they're willing to add that much detail into as many people as possible, then it can't be anything but positive.
So after this, we had a promo with Seth Rollins dismissing the legend of the Demon King.
Finn Balor, obviously their big match, which we don't know whether it's going to be the main event of SummerSlam, but it's got to be. It's one of the co-main events. Otherwise,
it has to be up there because they're pushing Finn Balor.
With the caliber of Seth Rollins and Finn Balor in there as well. I mean, the promo Seth Rollins cut was brilliant. If it was a bit controversial, saying that Finn Balor wasn't his real name because Seth Rollins isn't his name. I think his first real name is actually Colby, which is unusual.
Strange to say the least. So after these promos, we had Cesaro versus Sheamus in a singles match.
Repeat of last week.
No one cares about Sheamus.
Everyone loves Cesaro.
Especially after he called out Raw for being too much about it managers.
We all know he's not enjoying Raw that much. Well, he said he wasn't going to. And we'd probably rather see him on SmackDown just to add depth to that roster, to be honest. But
yeah,
I mean, it's a standard match, and it's carrying on with the fact that they both believe they should be United States champion or in contendership anyway.
Yeah, and Cesaro wins.
Cesaro wins.
As expected.
As wins, yeah.
Obviously, the better wrestler out of the two of them. Sheamus is too busy doing his films or failing with the films.
No.
Dreadful. So, after this, we had a tag team match of the Dudley Boys versus Neville and Sin Cara.
I mean, we saw on the pre-show for Raw, there was Dudley Boys having a go at Neville, and Neville having to find a partner. And the partner he did find was Sin Cara. And Neville and Sin Cara together it's only to promote the fact that the Cruiserweight Championship is returning most likely, I'd say, the Monday after SummerSlam. And it's showing two of the people that are going to have to mainly feature, really. Although the Dudley Boys have just kind of now turned into ex-big stars that are just jobbers now, to be honest.
Yeah, they just push over like potential tag teams or partnerships. It's kind of sad, but at least they make them look good. At least they can put on a good performance and act
they're good. They're good at what they've been told to do, and I'm sure they don't mind doing it at the last stages of their careers.
Wow, the WWE money they get is surely enough.
Surely justified.
So after this, we had one of the best promo segments of the show.
It differs opinion, but we kind of liked it.
Yeah, Roman Reigns crashed Rusev's and Lana's wedding celebration.
So they obviously got married last week. WWE want to highlight this for Total Divas.
It's not like they've been pushing Rusev massively beforehand.
Yeah. And we obviously had who else but Roman Reigns come out and say that he wanted to be the best man. He wanted to raise a toast to Rusev, and Rusev was having none of it. And unfortunately for Rusev, Roman pushed him into Lana, who smudged onto a cake. I mean, this was after Roman riled Rusev up a bit.
With one of the best lines of the night, boasting about how Rusev couldn't really pleasure Lana on her wedding night. Quite ridiculous. Roman's actually made us laugh for once.
Yeah, I mean, it felt more like his Twitter profile was talking rather than the scripted bollocks that he normally is fed to us.
Yeah, and that's what is so great that actually they might make Roman Reigns more like his Twitter.
I mean, the less profile he gets for now, the more he can kind of develop the snarky comments and that sort of aspect to his character, rather than having so much pressure on him being in the main event of pay-per-views, having to be the main star when Seth Rollins was away.
Because they really seem to perform when they're not in the spotlight here. Like the pay-per-views for the whole of this year, the smaller ones have been, on general, quite better. They've surprised us with what they managed to do, most recently with Battleground as well. So it seems WWE cope better when they're not in the spotlight at the moment. So after this, we had a match of Sasha Banks versus Dana Brooke, with some consequences.
It was a decent match. Dana Brooke still doesn't really look main roster ready, unfortunately.
Yeah, and so the match began with two consequences. If Dana won, the women's title match would become a handicap match of a 2 versus 1, and if Sasha wins, Dana is banned from ringside at the SummerSlam match. And overall, it was okay, just
an alright match.
Not ready, really.
The ending was, I see what they were going for, but it was kind of poorly executed. We had Sasha with her head over the ropes near Charlotte. Charlotte would go for the slap on Sasha. However, Sasha would move out the way and Charlotte would hit Dana. However, it was very slow slap. The ref saw it for one, so it should have been disqualification there. But well, it's gonna happen. Mistakes happen. We see what they were trying to do.
And yeah, Sasha
won.
And after this, we had a match of Kofi Kingston and Luke versus Luke Gallows in a singles match.
This obviously followed the promo segment we got.
Yeah, of Dr. Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson discussing a troubling issue
with Biggie's balls, unfortunately.
Yeah, in a literal jar.
I mean, we're guessing this injury is merely a storyline based one.
Yeah.
We obviously hope it's not. They're not obviously utilising the fact that Biggie's actually been injured, because he's become a great part of the roster nowadays.
But I like where they're going with this with the club.
It makes them a bit more than just tough, mean guys that beat people up. It makes them have that comedic element, something different about them.
And how they're gonna, and they promoted how they were gonna do the same and get another jar of Kofi Kingston's, while showing multiple highlights of Biggie being crushed against the ringside pole. And it was an okay match. We like both of these guys, of course, for different reasons.
I mean, it's looking very likely that SummerSlam, the New Day's title reign will come to an end.
And
However, that might not be a bad thing. We may see them branch out into become rivalries with other different people, which would be nice to see.
yeah, so they can do more than just always turn heel. Well, be heels, kind of, with the fact that
They're so interested in maintaining their title reign that it's the way they kind of are.
So yeah, Dr. Luke Gallows of course wins. Kofi doesn't really have a chance.
No.
So after this, we got a couple of promo segments. We had the Raw General Manager Mick Foley with his words on SmackDown Live.
Yeah, obviously we had the issue with Randy Orton coming over to Raw, and then Brock Lesnar retaliating by coming over to SmackDown last week. And it was clearly air talks, but it basically just turned into Daniel Bryan slating Raw. And it was pretty entertaining. And then we had kind of in the middle of it we had Rusev storming down.
Yeah.
And
just
it set the kind of the road up for the main event match.
Yeah. So the main event was Rusev versus Cesaro in a US Championship match.
I mean, the problem with this was that before the match, it was confirmed it'd be Roman Reigns versus Rusev for the United States Championship at SummerSlam. And Mick Foley introduced it as Rusev being the United States Champion, so it was kind of like Cesaro getting his chance, and it was guaranteed for him to lose. He wasn't going to win. It was a great match. Rusev and Cesaro were both brilliant. And obviously we had the typical dusty finish. Sheamus hit the bro kick while the ref had his back turned. Rusev kicks Cesaro in the head, and it's over.
Lots of dusty finishes on Raw.
There was a lot of dusty finishes. And then we had Super Roman come to the rescue. Rusev was kind of like a deer in headlights. As Reigns came down the ramp, he just kind of stood there and waited for the spear to happen.
Yeah.
And despite Reigns not being for a main championship, it still ends with him being the dominant force.
Yeah. It was just a mess kind of in the sense of how many people were involved. Not the best end compared to the last two Raws we've had.
I mean, it kind of summed up the episode of Raw. It was a bit messy. It was a bit uncut. I mean, it was good compared to what we had obviously 6 months ago. But now after the draft
and those two amazing
and
episodes.
The 2 prior great episodes of Raw, it's a bit of a step down. But I'm sure it's just kind of a hiccup on the way to SummerSlam.
With no one big fighting really, no Roman Reigns having a proper match, no Rollins having a proper match, no Finn. It's just maybe they're trying to save them so they don't get injured.
It might be
because they've had a history of that this year. It's just a shame they're not present. But Finn Balor was involved to tell us the myths and legends of the Irish heroes and beasts, about the legend of the Demon King and the history.
It's a great promo package, hyping up the first time we're going to see the Demon on the main roster. So not on the main roster, but we can see the Demon attire on the main stage. On the SummerSlam, second biggest pay-per-view of the year. Got a better card than WrestleMania. I mean, it's going to be. I'm excited.
So yeah, that's all for you. So moving on to SmackDown, the day after SmackDown Live, to say the least. The really poor name choice still, in my opinion, which obviously already makes it like kind of handicapped compared to what it has to have live.
After the live, because it's not SmackDown anymore. It's not on the Thursday or the Friday pre-recorded. It's obviously brand new live. And meant to be more exciting. And they also have the pre-show talking smack. No, why? I do quite like the element of it that's nice. Is obviously you got Daniel Bryan, and he's been using it as a chance to take digs at Raw, saying that they're lazy, they don't work as hard because they have more superstars. They can be less lazy. And I reckon it's obviously they're doing it, sowing the seeds for when they eventually do the bragging rights pay-per-view, which we know is going to come in the next year. It's just the name's a bit terrible. it's a bit naff, a bit cheesy. Just I don't know why they just don't go with the Raw package. How it's just Raw still. It should just be called SmackDown pre-show. Yes, yeah. I have to go with. Anyway. They're trying to make it stand out for no reason, trying to make it different for no reason again. And rather than rant about that, we'll start talking about the show. So yeah, Randy Orton interview kicked off SmackDown Live. It would take one RKO to get into Viperville, and then WO interrupts.
challenges Orton to a match later on the roster, which was quite surprising after Raw protected
Yeah,
superstars.
we had Randy versus Dario in the main event.
So yeah,
We'll talk about that when it comes to it.
So Dolph's it kicked off with American Alpha versus Mickey
Jobbers.
Yeah, Mickey O'Shea and Mike Villa.
So it's just basic them squashing a team, looking brilliant, which they don't need a jobber team to do. And when it ended and they won, for some reason, confusingly, all the tag teams from SmackDown decided to make their way into the ring rather. Like the Hype Bros we got, the Vaudevillains.
Oh, the Hype Bros.
Usos, I think, were in there.
Some were like in a very limited division as well.
I don't know. I hope they're not planning on having separate tag team bouts, but it looks like they're gonna have to do it because they haven't got crossover with the women's division, and they can't just the women feuding on SmackDown on their own it seems a bit
weird,
bit unnecessary.
So speaking of women's division, we had Becky Lynch versus Alexa Bliss in a women's division match.
But that was not the planned match. The planned match was Eva Marie versus Becky Lynch. And what happened, obviously, last week with Eva Marie, she got injured, very unfortunately. And this week, I mean, unfortunately, she had an incident with her ring gear. It fell off.
Yeah.
Her breasticles were almost exposed. It had to be covered with a towel.
Yeah, it's very weird.
Although obviously the last time they tried to bring her up as babyface.
No.
It's not going to work. She's inexperienced. She wasn't that great in the ring. She's slightly better now. Whereas now they're embracing the fact that she should be a heel. She should be like a proper diva. She used to be a model / kind of is a model. So they're kind of bringing the stereotypical tendencies to her, which is pretty interesting to watch. And it makes her a good character.
Yeah. So, yeah, Alexa Bliss won.
She won because of the distraction of Eva Marie coming back out. Becky Lynch, I mean, she keeps losing. She's the biggest star, women's star
one
on
of the
SmackDown.
best wrestlers, actually, in the
She's probably third best female wrestler on the roster overall.
So why they aren't pushing her more? Why they aren't trying to develop her?
She should be unstoppable, but I mean, we'll see what happens.
So yeah, after this we had Randy Orton versus Alberto Del Rio, surprisingly, which was a nice change in terms of having a superstar presence.
Yeah, it was nice. It's very old-fashioned kind of match with the fact it's like 2011, 2012 kind of feud. But I mean, the ending was a bit unusual. Rather than building Randy to be a monster that can possibly conquer Brock Lesnar, he won by disqualification. Dario smashed him with the chair, and then Randy just returned it with an RKO, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, so yeah, Randy Orton won by disqualification. Of course. So after this, we had Heath Slater versus Rhino.
This was a match for a contract for SmackDown Live.
And of course, because SmackDown Live's roster is kind of struggling, kind of not as great as it should be, Rhino wins via pinfall.
He does, and he gains the contract, and Heath Slater gets kicked out of the building. I'm enjoying what they're doing with Heath Slater, making him bounce between SmackDown and Raw, seeing where he ends up. I don't know how it's going to end, but we'll see.
Yeah, so it's nice to have more people joining the roster, of course, more variety, which they desperately need. Hopefully they can get people like Cesaro to come over after SummerSlam and maybe boost the talent.
Or at least sometime in the future would be nice.
So after this we had Carmella versus Natalya in a women's division match. I like what they're doing with Carmella. It's nice. She seems quite different to the rest of the women's roster.
I quite like that with Carmella that they've kind of differentiated her from Enzo and Cass, where she used to just be their ring buddy. But I mean, again, going back to Becky Lynch, she couldn't beat Natalya, and then Carmella just strolls into the main roster and beats Natalya on SmackDown
as well.
Simple as that. Okay, I mean,
nothing special.
I mean, they are kind of. It seems like they're trying to level everyone off to be like the same level of competition, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So to the main event of the evening, we had Dolph Ziggler and Dean Ambrose fighting together versus Bray Wyatt and Eric Rowan.
I believe this evolved from, was it a match between Dolph Dolph and Eric Rowan, perhaps,
Yeah.
or Dolph and Bray.
It's just weird having those two fighting together so close.
And then they had, obviously, Dean came out to kind of help Dolph Ziggler after he was being beaten down by Bray and Eric. So, I mean, they kind of paired them together. They didn't really get that on very well during the match, and then just managed to gain the win, obviously pinning Eric Rowan. And then obviously after the match, it was beat down. Dean Ambrose then flipped Dolph Ziggler around, hit him with the dirty deeds, and stood there looking strong.
So yeah, it was a good match to end.
It's a good way to kind of. It shows Bray Wyatt being around that main event picture, which is where he's deserved to be since the Bray Wyatt character kind of debuted, before he gets buried in every feud, unfortunately.
He's had so many wasted opportunities. It's nice to see SmackDown is going to do something with him, because they have to. They have no one else to really push against the superstars. Of course, we have AJ and John Cena still stuck in there.
Their feuds. I mean, after SummerSlam, we're likely to see probably the overall winner of that feud go on to face Dean Ambrose at the Backlash pay-per-view in September.
Yeah, a match we probably can't really wait for. It'll be a really good match to put on. Of course, John Cena versus AJ Styles is big enough for SummerSlam, of course.
I mean, it's probably the biggest match for SmackDown, but it is the biggest match, not probably, despite not having the title on the
One of the biggest on the actual...
It's probably one of the ones I'm most excited for, because we're guaranteed to have no interference.
Finally.
Probably like a 20-minute masterclass, really.
And then SmackDown also had a dark match after the...
dark match.
Yeah, so they're bringing these back, which I don't really know how to do.
I mean, they've done them before, but we kind of don't normally hear of them very much, because
we don't have results for this.
No.
And maybe they should be on the WWE networks. We're paying.
Yeah.
It's like... Okay.
They might as well. I mean, they've got the cameras there already.
Yeah, so there's no reason for these not to
Stuff
be
like one-off matches that they just ram on there.
So yeah, it was Dean Ambrose versus Bray Wyatt in a WWE World Championship match. Of course, Ambrose is won.
Yeah, I mean, it's not NXT. The title's not going to change hands on a televised match.
But we just don't know what really happened in it, so that's all we can really say.
Yeah.
So Raw and SmackDown were okay this week.
SmackDown, I'd say it was personally probably slightly better than Raw this week. Probably for the first time since the draft.
Yeah, because the first two SmackDown shows compared to Raw were just so weak.
Just because of the roster, really.
Yeah, and the fact that they can't do that much with the roster.
They need more. I don't know where they're going to find more.
They're going to have to bring up people
NXT in the future.
They have so many people to bring up from NXT though, which Nakamura should have came up and maybe helped out SmackDown, which would have been inspired from Joe could have come up. But of course they want to protect
We're going to see, obviously, Brooklyn, back to Brooklyn, for NXT, SummerSlam weekend. I mean, the results from that, most likely we're going to see Bayley Asuka. Bayley's probably swan song in NXT. Joe Nakamura, maybe Nakamura's final appearance, or at least...
Hopefully final appearance. He's
I mean, they might put the title on him and then take it off him just to have him in the title, being as he's one of the main advertising points for 2K17 going back to the release of that game.
Oh yeah, because they have the special edition.
They have the NXT special, which has got him, Apollo Crews, who's up for Intercontinental Championship.
Even though he's main roster.
Yeah, even though he's main roster. And Nia Jax, she's going to be a future women's champion.
Because he's so different. He reminds me of China almost. Well, she won't be able to wrestle the men, but she could easily. She's
different, and that's something we like to see. That's why we like people like Bayley,
who should be main roster very, very soon. Because he came out for the pay-per-view.
For background, of course.
But yeah, we were quite confused how they didn't just sign her there and then.
I mean, we don't know which brand she's going to go to. I mean, there's the Women's Championship on Raw, but SmackDown needs depth, and she'd be probably as big as Dean Ambrose if she went to SmackDown. She'd be not as big as John Cena, obviously, but she'd be up there for merch and stuff.
So yeah, that's it for After Pinfall this week. Hopefully you like and subscribe to our channel and hopefully share it with your friends. We'll do this next week as well and hopefully get out on Wednesday straight after the Raw and SmackDown shows.
Yep, thanks for listening, guys.